Before we start the show, I'm excited to announce that we have a new sponsor for this podcast, and it's DocRx. DocRx is a family-oriented company dedicated to tailor operational solutions for patient health and compliance programs that increases the quality and efficiency of patient-centered care, and always with the mission of the patient's health first. With over 10 years of experience helping doctors and their patients with diagnostic testing, patient monitoring, medical supplies, compliance, wholesale pharmacy, physician dispensing, billing, and much more. DocRx is your patient and health compliance solution, both under one roof. To find out how DocRx can help you, your hospital, pharmacy, or physician's office, see all their services at docrx.com. That's DOCRX.com. Now on to today's show.
We've all been through a lot this year, and let's treat people the way we would want someone to treat our grandmother, with that kindness and that compassion and explaining and just being open. And let's connect a little bit more. I think that we can really get people re-engaged to the mission if they just feel that we care about them. Let's care. Let's open up. Let's communicate. Let's get re-engaged.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. We're kind of kicking around and still going with this Get Back Up series. You know, last week we had Roddy Cade on, who was a paraplegic, and he has a book, Get Back Up, and he's got a podcast coming out, Rocket Motivation. And sticking with this theme, this whole COVID, you shut you down, you get back up. You shut down, you get back up. You shut down, have a hurricane too. Okay, so, while we're dealing with all this stuff, how do we keep going? And I have the wonderful PhD, Dr. Gia Wiggins, back on the show. And today we're going to talk about communicating the whys of your business, especially when you need to look around and possibly change and reinvent your business, but educating your people so that they are on the same page and they are on the same team as you. Hey, I'm Karen. I'm a former CPA, entrepreneur, business consultant with big ideas.
Welcome to Cheers to Business.
Gia Wiggins, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me as always. This is my home.
You feel so good. Your energy.
Thank you.
Yes, you don't have icky energy.
I appreciate
refreshing.
that. Yeah, I work really hard to keep icky energy away from me, and icky energy people as far away from me as humanly possible. So I'm happy to be here with you as always. My face lights up when I look at you.
Thank you. I've missed your face. All right. So tactical things that people can do when life ain't so jolly.
Which is a lot. I've given this topic a lot of thought over the past couple of months, not only because I've had the opportunity to speak about it multiple times, and not only because I have an opportunity to, teach about it, but I'm watching the struggles of people. I mean, I watch struggles, within, my own organization and, trying to change course and try to figure out who I am now. My identity has changed a little bit, from 2019 to who I am in 2020. In 2020, I've discovered I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was. I'm a lot more pliable than I thought I was. Don't tell my husband. But the things that I thought that I valued in the past and the things that, we all, I think, took for granted were kind of ripped from underneath us, and we've had to change course. And so in thinking about 2020 and its lessons, the conversation that I've had really often, and specifically with my husband, is that whatever the lessons are from 2020, apparently we need to learn them. If we do not get those lessons, and if we're not changing course and looking at the things that we need to really hold dear, and the things that we need to do to make sure that we are giving our best selves to the community, to each other, to our neighbors, to our friends, to our customers, we're doomed to repeat this again in 2021.
I mean, if you keep doing the same thing, you get the same results?
The exact same, and maybe worse results, because I think that, for so long, we have been doing the same thing. I mean, 2019 probably wasn't that much different than 2018.
I changed my career. It was something I've been doing for 25 years, so I got a jump start on everybody.
You did get a jump start on everybody. But I want, it's very important to me that as we're talking to business owners, business leaders, interns that are looking for a brand new career, college students. We're looking at middle managers and people that want to be managers. What are some of the things that we need to really focus on as we're going into the end of 2020 and going into 2021 that's going to be really important, and it's going to really help us to hold our heads up and to kind of recover and set a different course. And so that's something I've really been paying attention to a lot.
You got to
lately.
get your guide rod.
Yes.
I talked about that on the last show. No, everybody needs a guide rod. You know, it's in the ocean box you got in the closet underneath two other boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, get your ocean box and get your guide rod out. Stick it right up your ass and stand tall. You know, it forces you, if you think about it, it forces you to sit up straight, look forward ahead, and deal with what you got to deal with.
Absolutely. I think that it's important that, you know, everybody within the sound of our voice today, they understand that we can't go back. We've learned so much, and we've had an opportunity to really look at things that work and things that do not work. And there really hasn't been a true rule book.
There is no rule book.
There is, of course, not in business.
No.
But there's no rule book about exactly what you can and cannot do in order to be successful. I mean, we've had to be innovative and think about things and say, you know what? I've been spending so much time away from my family doing this. And you know what? I don't even enjoy it. I have nothing to, I hate what I do. I'm stressed out.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to figure out, what do you enjoy doing? And, you know, my goal has always been, even in building my business, is to do something that I love doing so much that I do it for free.
Yeah. This is what I do is not work.
Right.
I don't think of it as work. That's why I want to do it all the time. People say I'm a workaholic. No, I'm enjoying life.
Yes, yes.
You know, that's what growing businesses means to me.
Right.
It doesn't have to be mine.
Correct.
Yeah, but if I just see something grow and if it's not, just quit doing things the same way and expecting different results. It's just not going to happen. And that's part of the get back up. You know, you've got to look outside the box. Remember when we did that first COVID show? You were my first COVID guest. That's right. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I remember that.
Because we were talking about what do we do with our employees? We're shutting down. And I said on that one, quit crying. Look for opportunities. Right. I did it. Yeah. I just don't understand why other people can't. You know, quit crying. Find a different way to do things. But you got to make sure you have your people on board. You know, your workers in your business, they are in business too. You will always have those that it's just a job. That's okay. You need them too. No matter what they have on their desk at 5 o'clock, when 5 o'clock hits, they're going to be that old cartoon, George clocking out. Chink, they're out.
See you, George.
See you, George. But they'll be there at 8 o'clock the next morning. You have to have those people too. And that was a really valuable lesson for me. You have to respect other people's non-willingness to see what you enjoy.
And oftentimes it's just that they're not engaged. You know, I think that we're missing a huge opportunity, especially as, you know, small business owners sometimes, and micromanagers and managers who hadn't been trained the proper way. We think that we give the workers marching orders, okay? I need you to do this from this time to this time, and then I need you to work on this, and I need you to work on this. We never tell them why. We never give them the recognition for doing that. Right. But a lot of times they don't. And they don't tell them the why. They don't tell them how it fits into the larger picture of the business. How can you expect
people to want to do something if they don't have goals? They're just told to process.
And they
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Right. It's very important that we kind of break away from that old model of, I'm just going to, you know, treating your employees like children. I'm going to treat you like a child. I'm going to tell you exactly, put one foot in front of the other. Well, then you have something like, you know, all hell breaking loose as it has been, you know, since March at this point. And your employees only do exactly what you tell them to do. You say, okay, I need you to go over there and walk 3 steps to, you know, the right. Then they go there and they stand and they wait for you.
I love this one. So you tell somebody, you say, go 3 streets down, take a right at the oak tree. Mm-hmm. The road's on the left at the oak tree.
Correct.
You have some people that will stand on that corner.
I'm lost.
Well, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you realize what I meant? Mm-hmm. If that's the difference is, will somebody stand there because that road's not there and they're not going to take the road to the left, but you have others go, I figured you meant on the left. and take the road on the left.
But you have to go a little bit deeper sometimes and say, okay, I have employee A who will stand there forever waiting on somebody to give them different direction. And I have employee B that looks at it and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take a different direction. It could have been.
How about you pull out your cell phone and, hey, the road's on the left. Okay, go ahead and take it.
But
Sorry.
they could have been beaten down so badly by a previous supervisor for not doing exactly what they told them to do that they're literally afraid to do anything outside of what they've been told to do.
Or a spouse. I've read into that before.
Or a parent.
Yep.
And so it's a little bit deeper.
Or their kids.
Right. I'm a firm believer that, I don't think that you should get too deep into your employees' personal lives. But at the same time, you do need to ask, you do need to ask enough questions to figure out why they do the things that they do. Having conversations that are not just, I'm going to write you up because you didn't do this, but hey, you were working on this project and I noticed that you did that. Can you just kind of walk me through your mindset?
What were you thinking?
Right.
I like that. I like to ask that. What were you thinking that you did it that way?
Because I can modify the behavior if I know why you did it.
Mm-hmm. I need to know the why. I need to know why just as much as you need to know why.
Maybe you need additional training. Maybe you need additional supervisor. Maybe the supervisor that you have has beat you down so badly that you're afraid to do anything. Companies can be so much more productive if they have people that feel empowered to do the things within their scope of work. And if they make a mistake, it's not world ending because I made one simple mistake. And so as we are trying to figure out how to move past what we're doing now, okay, and as we're trying to move past 2020 and try to figure out what we're supposed to do to pick ourselves back up and to move forward, I think it's important for managers to understand that you've got to look at your behavior. Man in the mirror. I'm on Michael Jackson music apparently this morning. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I being the type of leader that's allowing my people to bring innovation and fresh ideas? And if they see something that's a stale way of doing something, do they feel empowered enough to say, hey, why are we doing it this way? I had a new client a couple of months ago where one of the things that we do when I go in an organization is we look at all of their processes and try to figure out why they do the things that they do. So if there's one, like let's say, for example, a time off request, why does it go to 3 different people? Why does the employee sign the time off request? It goes to the supervisor, it goes to the manager, and then it goes to the payroll person. Like, why do that many people need to touch it? Can we move over to a system where they put it in electronically and then the person that can approve it approves and then it automatically goes into payroll? And so when you look at all of those steps, you realize that somebody said something about those steps about 5 years ago. But because it was the, magical brainchild of the organization's president, they're afraid to say, hey, there's an easier, better, more efficient mousetrap. But it's important that we...
Same as last year. That's the way we've always done
That's the way that which those words will... If I hear those words, I know I went to hell.
It makes me scream. It makes my head explode. I said, why are we doing that? I tell people when I interview or when I'm coming on or like the teams that I've taken on now at this point in my life is I ain't your mama.
Right.
I expect you to do this, this, and this. I expect you to do your job. I don't hire dumb people. I hate to break it down that simple, but if you hire dumb people, then you deserve what you get.
That's a whole different conversation.
But, there's the expectation theory, and it's been tested and proven. And it is a theory that people will do exactly what you expect them to do. But you have to let them know what that is. I sometimes don't do a good job at that, but I warn them ahead of time. I was talking to a team last week, and I said, okay, let me go ahead and tell you that y'all want me to train you how to do this. This is my failure. I have been told multiple times that I will tell you steps 1, 2, 4, and 6. So when I skip 3 and 5, I don't mind if you go, you skipped a step.
You missed something there.
Because I will.
Right.
I covered it in my brain, but it doesn't come out my mouth. And I know that about myself. But I try to let them know, right or wrong, I try to let them know my weakness before I show them how to do it because I'm not the best person to teach it.
That's a very interesting statement. I think about that often. I teach human resources management, you know that, at one of our local universities. And in that course, I am so careful that as I am teaching them something that's been my life's work, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I'm not going to give exactly how many years. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I have to make sure that I am sharing information that I'm familiar with, but they may not be familiar with, and not to skip huge steps.
Yep.
You know,
It's too easy to do.
Right. I was guilty of that one time. There are tons of acronyms in employment law. You know that. It's, you know, every agency has their own set of acronyms. And I would refer to something. I would say the NLRB or the EEOC. And then one of my sweet students said, Dr. Wiggins, like, what do those things mean? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I had to go back and say, you know what? We're not going to use acronyms for a while unless we talk about those acronyms.
Right.
And so it's really important to understand those gaps. And I think I had that issue with a college math professor one time. You know, he's been doing that math. It's like second nature to him. I hate, you know, like those advanced math equations. I can't do it. It's not natural to me. And I'm like, give it to me like I'm 5 years old. Technically, I am 5 years old in this particular area because I'm so familiar with it. I need you to break it down for me just a little bit more.
Another favorite person of mine besides you.
I guess I'll share.
Well, always, she would say, I would get on a roll talking about in the CPA world, and she would stop me, and she would just put her hand on the table. So all right, stop. That's a non-threatening motion.
Right. Touch her hand gently.
She would touch, and she would go, I need you to say that a different way.
That's awesome.
That's genius.
Yeah.
You are not getting what I'm saying the way I'm saying it. So I need to stop and say it a different way. So I think
that's a great tool.
It is a great tool. And she said she thinks it's a limitation on her, and I think it's a strength.
It's a huge strength.
I think it's such a strength. And visit her restaurant on Dolphin Island, Beach in Baja, and Foxy's, waffles. All right, good stuff.
We need to go by there too.
I know. But anyway, she's one of my favorite people, Lacey, and I think it's such a strength to know that, to be able to raise your hand and say, I don't understand it the way you're saying it.
Right.
And so I've taken that and learned that from her. And I will say, I need you to say that one more time a little differently. And I think we owe our people that in our businesses, because I want them to raise their hand when they don't understand what I'm saying, because it comes second nature. Because, you know, I would be having conversations with people, and I would look at them and they'd say something that I don't know, because, you know, people all the time say, well, I can't do what you do. Well, I can't do what you do. You know, I can't roof houses. I can't run an HR company. I can't do a lot of things. I would go, don't make me talk tax code. I will talk tax code in a language that you have no idea what I'm talking about, because I don't understand what you're saying.
One of my students, I guess I was grading that paper yesterday. She made this wonderful comment. It was a podcast assignment. Sometimes they listen to some of the podcasts. They'll listen to this one probably.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all. I love my students. But she listened to the podcast, and I think I gave a little bit more about my background. And she made the comment that she and her husband were listening to that podcast, and she thought, you know, after I finish with my bachelor's program, you know, I want to be more like you. And I thought, I mean, after I, you know, almost wept, you know, by those sweet words, I responded back immediately. And I was like, yeah, you don't want this path. This path has been riddled with pain and toil and uncertainty and failure, some really high points.
Some really low.
Some really low points. The high points are celebrated so hard because the low points have been, you know, right before them and right after them. And I shared with her, I said, you know, I've got to do a better job of sharing that windy road.
Yes.
And as someone is giving me feedback, if it's a student, if it's a company CEO that I'm working with, if it's my children, probably my 13-year-old is, you know, out in the lobby right now reading a book, you know, God bless her heart. The patience that is needed to be able to accept when someone tells you that they're not getting it the first time. I need you to explain it to me a different way. Mom, when you told me you wanted me to do that, I didn't understand, exactly what you wanted me to do and the whys. It is not disrespectful to ask me why I want you to do a certain thing or why you should do it a certain way. Or if you need me to go into a little bit more detail, we've got to, as leaders, as business owners, as parents, as spouses, we've got to figure out a way to not take everything that seems to be a question as a personal affront and an attack on who we are as an individual. You not understanding exactly what I meant does not make me a horrible communicator. It could be. I could be a horrible communicator. It just means that you need a little bit more. I share all the time with business owners, stop writing people up before you get their point of view. If somebody makes a mistake, and I think I've shared with you before, the thing that I always find absolutely hilarious is that if you go into any organization and you look at the person who writes people up the absolute most, if you write them up, they're going to be in the fetal position for at least 2 weeks. Cannot believe somebody had the, audacity to correct their behavior, but you can't make a mistake in this person's presence because they'll write you up. Let's take a minute and ask questions and say, tell me what happened. Okay, I know what didn't get done. I know what they said about you, but tell me exactly what happened so we can work through it. And then I ask, okay, you want to fire this person? You want to write this person up? Did you train them sufficiently? Do you absolutely know they've been trained to do this work? Have you had this conversation before?
You're assuming.
You're absolutely assuming.
Making an ass out of you and me.
If a person has done something, you're like, we've talked about it time and time again. I was like, yeah, but when you talked about it, did you say it to their face, or was that something that you were gossiping about to other managers about how horrible the employee was? Or did you have the
conversation where you asked them in not an obvious or patronizing way to repeat what you said?
Right.
Have the conversations, tell them the whys, and then say, all right, what are you taking away from this?
Absolutely.
Because then you'll know.
Clear communication.
I mentioned to somebody last week, we were talking about employee reviews. I said, I like to do them annually, and sometimes I like to have them grade themselves, and
Always.
I grade them
Self-grade is so
because
important.
then they may think they're the bomb at something, man. They think that's their biggest strength, and you think it's their weakness.
Right.
You have to have those conversations to be on the same fair playing field.
Always.
All right. So what we've learned today that we can take out into our work, whether you're the owner or the team member, is to get back up and let's go successfully into the future, overcoming 2020, whatever the hell it's been, is that communicating and stopping, explaining the whys. And even sometimes if people say stuff, don't assume that you know what they're talking about if you don't. Ask them to say it a different way. Sometimes whether you take a step to the left or to the right, you got sometimes to look at it from a different perspective and understand the why.
I think you're exactly right. It's important that we all understand that we've all been through a lot this year, and let's treat people the way we would want someone to treat our grandmother, with that kindness and that compassion and explaining and just being open. And let's connect a little bit more. I think that we can really get people re-engaged to the mission if they just feel that we care about them. Let's care. Let's open up. Let's communicate. Let's get re-engaged.
I'm just going to give you a hug right now.
Please do. I need those.
Absolutely. All right, Gia, we do a cheers at every show. Cheers to you teaching at the University of Mobile, sharing your knowledge and clarity and communicating.
Cheers to you.
Me?
Yes. Cheers to you. Cheers to you for the passion to continuously give of yourself to this community who need you and love you, and for not holding anything back, for your knowledge sharing. Cheers to you for that.
Thank you. It's an open book.
That's why I like you. I am too. Two open books, having a great conversation.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And y'all, thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, rate us, review us, share it with a friend. We want to know what you want to hear about so we can share with you the ups and downs that we've learned over time. See you next week.
Please be sure to subscribe to Cheers to Business podcast on iTunes or anywhere else that you get your podcast. Visit our Facebook and be sure to give us a like. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, shoot us an email from the website cheerstobusiness.com.